Hello again from Node Astrology. Today we have Amy. This is kind of been coming for a while. Amy's a friend of mine, and I did her chart reading months ago, probably last year sometime. But the problem was, I was 3 years off and several hours. So the specific transit advice I've been given this amazing friend of mine has been completely off, and she was such a sweetheart about it. She even told me that she thought she misunderstood things or didn't quite understand what I was getting, or maybe she didn't think she understood astrology, or but she listened to it, and then through a casual conversation several weeks ago, she was like, no, here's my birth certificate. I wasn't born then. This is when. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I am very sorry. And so here is my dear friend Amy's chart. She was born 22 October 1969, Lexington, North Carolina, at 5:05 p.m. So at the start of this chart is 25 degrees of Pisces as the rising sign. And shortly following there, at 28 degrees, is her moon in Pisces. Pisces moon is a lot of depth. There's a lot of emotion going on there. She's projecting forward. At the same time, it's also the first house. This is how we project into the world. This is our mask. This is what we show people, and people can definitely see her emotions right on her face. And with Chiron right behind that in Aries, there's a need to take direct action, and people can tell that. It's a beautiful thing about Pisces. You can tell that they're trying to let go, and you can tell there's lots going on with them, whether it's sun, moon, or rising, or even people that are heavy 12th house. There's a depth there and a love for people that always is present and prevalent. And taking direct action for anybody with a Pisces, any kind of placement, is a bit rough. It's probably a little bit difficult, but I know that she gets in there and gets things done, and that may be why it's not as difficult for her, because it is there in Aries and its first house. So I have another friend of mine who he is very direct also, but he doesn't feel his Chiron placement in the seventh house, because he gets in there and he gets shit done. It's cool to watch. So with Aries and Libra intercepted, which means there's no house that starts on either Aries or Libra. It's kind of like the secret superpower. You have to take some time to get it unlocked. Although with Aries and Libra, it's not quite so bad as maybe it would be for, I don't know, Pisces or Saturn, or Capricorn. Would take you some time to get that opened up. But the opposite of Capricorn would be Cancer, and then you would just go through your moon. So that wouldn't be as tough. Intercepted Aries in the first house there is going to aim at her Mars in the 11th house in Capricorn. So as she builds structure with her friends, and she seeks out friendly Capricorns, or people who are Aquarius, and there's about half and half Aquarius there in the 11th house, it is going to help her build that, figure out what to do, and to not necessarily build legacy, but figure out which direction to go. So there's a definite call to tap into those friends and tap into those structures, so that she can build a legacy for herself, even though this is first house. And I'll get to the Libra intercepted when I get to seventh house. So second house, actually, first house, Saturn there in the first, like right at the end there. Her second house starts at 6 degrees, and Saturn's there at 5:57. So it's almost before you close out there. Saturn in Taurus. So part of that projection took a while, and most people spend 30 years running away from their Saturn, or allowing themselves to seek control systems or people who structures through people, or demanding that others knuckle under to our control. I'm in charge. I'm the authority here, and eventually you can become that respected structure, that respected. I don't know. I want to use the word expert here, but use the authority, use the karma that you've built up. In Taurus, that took her a while to. That little piece that she projects out about how she feels. And Saturn in Taurus, it takes just a little bit longer. So most likely, 30s, 40s, started sorting that out a little bit. Even though that Saturn is retrograde and he's not quite at his full power there, definitely not in Taurus. But with Uranus in Taurus now, probably a couple of years ago, when that passed over, could have been some very interesting things going on in her face. And I might go back and ask her about that. Moving on to the second house. Second house starts in Taurus, and obviously, so now we're kind of synced up here. The foundation of Taurus is second house, and her second house is Taurus. So it's about our material attitudes and how we think about our own security and how we think about ourselves. And, that's grounded. That's definitely, it's the natural placement for the second house. The ruler for the second house there, Taurus, is Venus, and Venus is in the seventh house conjunct with Uranus. So there's a little bit of erratic Venus there, but it's still it's grounded in the relationships. So if the relationships are innovating, and if they're moving forward, and they are breaking down structures that aren't that don't work, and if the balance is off on things, and she might be off, but if it's on, it's very on. Uranus there is structure there, but he's willing to break things up. But we'll get to that when we get to Aquarius. Third house begins in Gemini. Again, natural placement for Gemini. House ruler is Mercury, and it is in also the seventh house in Libra. So there's lots of communication about relationships in her mind and with herself. And Gemini is also how we communicate with ourselves. It's it's how we speak and how we write, and how we text and video message we send, and it's also our relationship with our inner self. So there's lots of relationship ties in her mind to how she relates to things. All right, and especially with Mercury being in Libra in the seventh, it's very strong. The relationship is very strong there. Again, Gemini is the twins. It's two things that are one, like the twin stars Castor and Pollux. You always refer to them together, or the yin and the yang. They're together. Peanut butter and jelly, they're together. Yeah. And moving on to the fourth house, also starts in Gemini, but continues on into Cancer. The majority of it's Cancer. Fourth house is home. It's how we nurture ourselves. It's where we get nurture and send that nurturing back out, and how we do it. So again, that's calls back to the relationships and Mercury and Libra. And I'm going to continue on because I already talked about that. Fifth house begins in Cancer, and it continues on mostly into Leo, probably about 2/3 there. But the moon is the ruler of the fifth house here, and it's in Pisces. So the way she lives and how she entertains herself and has fun and is creative, is about knowing the moods of that depth that she has, that she brings forward into the rest of the world. The fifth house, a lot of people tend to go, oh, everybody wants to escape into the fifth, and that's where it can be. And if people with heavy fifth house placements, I've seen, do have trouble moving into the world and having solid relationships a little bit, because they're so focused on playing, they're so focused on running away, because Leo is the inner child. But Cancer is a child that is the inner child that needs to be nurtured. So as long as she's having fun, fifth house is all the things that people consider life. It's what recharges us. It's the foundation of the fifth is Leo. So the fifth house is always ruled by the sun, but the sun exists. It burns constantly. It's fixed fire. Although, here in Amy's chart, it is cardinal water, ruled by the moon. So it's, the moon house, the moon ruling the house of the sun here, effectively. But with Lilith there's a want to either, completely pull on the feelings of mother or throw it off. I know for Amy that she likes to dive into that. She likes to mother people and do it in her way and nurture people in her way, as many do. But some people are able to, figure out how other people do stuff and do it that way, but she wants to do it her way, because Lilith is the rebel in us, and that's how that's one of the ways that we rebel, Uranus being one of the others. The sixth house begins in Leo, and the chart ruler, the ruler of the sixth house is the sun in Libra. So there's lots of relationship, lots of balance, lots of justice, lots of order going on in her sixth house, and the majority of it still is Virgo. Looks like about 2/3 of it still Virgo, and with a south node in Virgo, that's where she's going to ground for her soul's evolution, and push forward into that north node in the 12th there in Pisces. That's a powerful placement for for healers, and she knows that she has healed people before, and is a good facilitator. Most people aren't necessarily healers themselves. They just facilitate. They show other people where they open the door. I have read that the concept in certain cultures for shamanism is a sick person will go to the shaman, and the shaman will talk to the person and get their energy and feel how they feel, and then the shaman will take a psychedelic or some sort of or have some communication with spirit or the energies beyond, and then tell the sick person what's going on, and then find a cure or find a way to deal with the symptoms, or alter their life so that they can use that injury or that sickness as a strength. And I know that that Amy has done those things before, as well as going back to, strangely enough, the Saturn in the first. She's told me things about her understanding of the energies of real estate, like the energies that exist there. And again, it's there's grounding here in Virgo and that South Node. Virgo is a sign for for service, and there's a purity there as well as in Pisces. But Virgo rolls its sleeves up and it gets dirty. It's willing to get in there and do what's got to be done on the daily basis, as a temple worker, essentially. Okay, seventh house beginning in Virgo, continuing on with lots of Libra, and intercepted Libra. So right after the seventh house delineation there, or as sometimes referred to as the descendant, we have Pluto. So we have heavy transformational experiences for serving others in relationships. This could be people that are actually Scorpio, or people with strong Scorpio placements, or people that are, Libra or Virgo. It could be any one of those three that are very transformational. And with Vertex being just 2 degrees off of that, I suspect Virgo season, or anytime any of the other planets, even the moon, passes over those points, is very powerful for her. So again, I'm gonna ask, run some transits, and get back with her. I've got several months of of advice to kind of bad advice to kind of go repair. Transition into Libra. We have Venus and Uranus conjunct here. This could also be, Uranus is radical change. Is where we're willing to break down anything that's got to be broken down. Doesn't matter how long it's been standing. Doesn't matter what it is, who it is, where it is. Uranus is willing to break it down, and there is an intuition here. So we have the sign that Venus rules, or one of the signs that Venus rules, Libra, with Venus here in it. Now, mind you, the house does start in Virgo. That's a lot of Libra in the 7th. So it's kind of getting its own juice back there, but there may be a lot of emotional texting going on, or a lot of emotional communication via technology, or she might be very tied to technology. Although people with that are 12th house, or people that have Pisces placements, tend to have difficulties with tech, and I know that she kind of has, but it still comes to her. And she's willing to break down barriers with that. If it doesn't feel good, it's out the door, or it should be out the door. Mercury, in the house ruled by Virgo, good placement. There's always talk about balance and justice, and interpersonal relationships, whether they are viewed as positive or negative. I watched a thing recently that talked about, positive. Everybody wants a positive thing, or they don't want negative things, but we need those negative things. We need that. Nobody looks at the negative charge of a battery or an electromagnet or anything like that as being bad, but it's a necessary thing so that the flow happens, so that the current flow happens, and life is the same. Positive energies connect, negative energies separate, and there is separation between things in the universe, between electrons and atoms, and one person and the next, but we can feel each other. So that's definitely a good thing. Jupiter also being here in the 7th house in Libra. There's a lot of relationship. There's lots of balance, lots of justice. Sometimes there may be too much, because Jupiter expands. He makes everything big. He makes everything real big. Makes a lot of things. So with a lot of things going on in her 6th house, and now we have a 7th house that is ruled by Virgo and communication, with Jupiter there. There's lots going on. There's lots of balance. There's lots of seeking of balance. But again, all signs and all placements receive and transmit both. And as somebody with a North Node in the 12th house, people probably do get balance just from interacting with Amy, whether they're randoms or not. Moving on to that very strong 29-degree Libra sun in the 7th house. It's intense. It's very intense. It's very much, is this fair? Is that fair? Is there balance here? Is there not? And then with the callback to that Uranus and that Venus, and to get that balanced out, and Mercury to communicate it, and the Jupiter to see if all the other things are balanced around it. It's very much, it's a very sensitive machine, and there's a lot going on there, and there's definite identity with whoever it is she's balanced with, or whatever it is she's balanced with. It's she might think of herself as somebody who wears these types of shoes, or drives these kinds of cars, or has these types of relationships, or somebody who is justice walking, possibly. 8th house begins in Scorpio, with Neptune there. Scorpio is all the things unseen. It is other people's money and deep experiences and psychic abilities. And with Neptune here, there is a definite psychic ability. And I know from having talked to her for a number of years that this is true. With the co-ruler of Pisces, her actually is just her rising sign, but in that 12th house, there's a calling to having, being able to see things that can't be seen with the eye. So Scorpio can see things and they know things, and those are deep experiences with her, and even the divine speaking directly to her in those depths of where she looks and seeks for trust and those things is very powerful. Moving on to the 9th house, Sagittarius. This is life expansion, mind expansion, search for meaning, travel, with Jupiter in the ruler of this house being in the 7th. For her, it's always about relationship. It's always about balance. Like, when she travels, when she expands her mind, the types of things that expand her are those relationships, are those balance things, are those order things, are those justice things. Very simple. And moving on to the 10th, also beginning in Sag, and then moving on into Capricorn. So, again, Jupiter in the 7th house, lots of relationship going on here. And then continuing on into Capricorn, I know that there are lots of Capricorns around her, and she is a get it done kind of person. And it helps, her focus and, get grounded with that Saturn in the 1st house in Taurus. So even though that's, that's 1st house, it is run by, Neptune and Jupiter. So again, we're back to relationship and balance, and Taurus, not necessarily about balance, but Taurus still has a sensuality to it. And Saturn there, it's very tactile. It's very touchy. And Capricorn is about legacy. It's about building things. It's about moving forward. It's, what we're known for. And people definitely know that she is definitely around Capricorns. There are a number around her. Onto the 11th house, which starts in Capricorn and run by that Taurus, Taurus Saturn, and Mars is right there. So there is a want to build and to have legacy with her friends, and as somebody who is Aquarian. So Mars is exalted in Capricorn, but here in the 11th, it's a little odd, it's a little strange, it's a little weird, and it's Mars. The best explanation for Mars in Aquarius, although this is not exactly that, is an alien spaceship that knows exactly what it wants to go pick up. But Mars in Capricorn in the 11th, there is a solid plan. There is like, we're going to pick this up, we're going to pick that up, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's much more focused, and it knows it's about legacy. It does. It knows it. And it goes after it. It might seem a little strange. It might seem like a little barrier breaking being in the 11th house, and driven to be connected with the collective and have, you know, more Aquarian views and be a little strange and be, you know, out there and outlandish. But a Pisces moon in the 1st is really going to do that anyway. Moving on to the 12th house, and the house ruler is Uranus. And 12th house is our repressed self, you know, the parts of us that are hard to get to. It's also about service and our, you know, subconscious. And that Uranus in the 7th house is willing to break things down to get that done. It's willing to, you know, get involved with technology. It's willing to, you know, it's willing to transmit weird things or be weird, to get at that that little piece of strangeness, whatever it may be. But it's you know, repressed use of technology, and maybe going with the flow just a little bit. You know, this is a more of a breaking out of established patterns. You know, like I said, it was you know, Mars in Capricorn, but in the 11th house, so that's breaking out. You know, Uranus in the 7th house, that is, you know, seeking balance but breaking out. You know, so there's a definite breaking out here, that is happening with my good friend here. And I've already discussed the North Node in the 12th. That is very powerful. It is subconscious, you know, trying to bridge worlds and bring things together, and, you know, show the world that there is divine love and divine order and magic, and, you know, it comes from chaos. It does. It really does. And that's kind of what, you know, Aquarius brings in, as well as, you know, in conjunction with all of the other planets in Amy's chart. So, I very much appreciate anybody that's listened all the way through. I hope you learned something. I definitely did. It's taken me a while to get to this in a strange kind of way, but, you know, I've recorded 2 readings today, but I'm getting this one up first because I owe my friend, and I want her to be able to understand what's going on. So everybody else, you can reach me at Node Astrology on Facebook and TikTok. My TikTok is a little more of a blog now than it used to be. Actually, it's kind of what I started it for. It's helped out quite a bit. And so I will see you guys in the next reading. Thank you.